Typically, the next little issue we've encountered with the VW Beetle, after doing all this work, we needed to get it in for an MOT because we were getting it ready to sell. And stuck it in for an MOT, sailed through, got a phone call from the garage, and they said, by the way, the fuel flap is broken and won't close. So we think your actuator's gone, which is just about typical, just as you're going to sell it. So I've started to try and take apart and find out how it all works, not having a clue. I wish I'd have done a bit of research beforehand, because I've pulled the wire out and it's not where I was supposed to pull the wire out. But the long and short of it is that's the bit there, and that little bit pushes in and out and locks the fuel flap. So if I pick you up there, the fuel flap assembly fits on there like so, and you can see there's a tiny little screw hole just there. That's all that holds that in, and then that flap just sits back like so and closes, and that little actuator pushes out and locks it when you do the central locking. And of course, without that, it just opens, and it's sprung loaded, so it pushes the flap out all of the time. So in here, in the actual, hopefully you'll be able to see some of it. But let me get the better torch. So you can see the end of the cable just there. That's the bit you don't take out. But just down the back there, where that cable goes through, it actually goes through here and then into the boot. Just in here. So you move the flat part back to do all the other stuff, and then just down there is the other side of that wire. Comes through the wheel arch and down into there. That's the bit that you need to disconnect. Not force this thing here off. Perhaps some instructions might have been useful beforehand. It does mean I've got to try and get a replacement one. I've already tried to do some research, and typically you can't, it's not as easy to get the bit as you think. In the States it's an absolute doddle to get, because it seems they love these out there. In the UK not so much so. At the moment I've seen prices ranging from £30 to well over 100, so I need to do some investigation. But apparently these are a common bit to go on the VW Beetle, which isn't really helpful when you're about to try and sell it. It's just typical. But what I'm going to try and do is get the new connector, refit it. It should only be a 5-minute job, but we'll have to see how it goes. Right, just managed to get the connector out the other side. What I need to do is see if I can just pull the wire through. If I get my hand in. It's not the easiest bit to try and get your hand to. Hey. And it's as simple as that. So this connector here is the bit that goes into the boot. That's what it looks like. This bit here is the bit that connects into here and shouldn't come out. Not really sure if I can get that back in now. I think in some respects that's a lesson learned. I might be able to try and push that back in a bit. what you might not be able to see very clearly on the camera, I'm trying, that bit there, the circuit board, is all rusted. So I guess over time it's just gone, and that's what's caused it to. It looks like the little motor behind there, so if that's a little motor that pushes the pin in and out and it's all rusted, then that's why it's not responding anymore. The part number, handily, for this is listed just on the back here, and for anyone's reference it's 5C5810773B. The B, from what I'm understanding on these, is quite important because that appears to indicate what model of car it is. So when I have put just the serial number, the 810773 in, there's a little letter that comes after that that essentially puts it down to be a Golf, Polo, Audi, all of those sorts of things, all these that use this mechanism. Skodas use them as well, but they're a common bit to go, so I'm told. There's not much I can do about it now. I'll try and put it back together, and then we'll go from there. But until I can get a new one ordered, I'm going to struggle a bit, I think. Yeah, that pin goes direct into the motor itself, the one that I bent quite spectacularly. So it's been several days. In the end, I managed to get the part, and I got it direct from VW, because when I started researching all the different part numbers and the codes and stuff and trying to find a cheaper one online, there was a number of them where they said will fit, possibly fit, and you just weren't sure. So I thought the best thing to do was go straight to VW, and actually they got this to me in, I think it was 6 days, bearing in mind that's over the Christmas period, and it was 60 quid. £60 compared to 45 for an aftermarket part. You kind of thought to yourself, well, I might as well pay the 60 and I know I get the guaranteed part. Now, the part number, if you need it, is 5C5810773B. Now, what that meant was that was the last model that they made of these to go on this car, and I think they fit multiple cars, but ultimately that's what this part number came up as. So what I'm going to do now is hopefully try and fit it so that you can see what's what and when's where. That's the plan, but it shouldn't take too long to fit, hopefully, he says. So if I move you in a bit closer, hopefully you'll be able to see that. This essentially pops out. He says, hold on a second, take that off. Essentially pops out like so. So that's all safe and secure. Pop that up there. Now, so nothing gets into the tank while I'm messing about, I'll pop that back on, and this part of the wire, this bit here, has got to go through. Now there's a very, very small little gap right down the back there, and I'll try and show you that now so that you can see where I've got to go. Open the boot up so we've got a bit more light. Pop the keys up there. Now, in here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, to be fair, but right down the back here, all the way down there, there is a hole, and that bit of wire has got to be fed through that hole. So So it's right to the back, to the left, and that's where it goes. And this thing here essentially is just like a rubber bung to stop any water or ingress, because obviously it can get back up through there. But this one looks a lot better on the unit itself and is moving quite freely, which I would have hoped. So I've got to try and fumble around in the dark. It's not the easiest. To try and get to. Certainly come out a lot easier. What I'll try and do is round here in the boot, if I can get the camera to stand. Now it comes through this bit here. I'm hoping, yep. So if I grab the torch, I should be able to show you where that comes through, and I'll get you into position. So you'll see that there, and then new wire is literally just coming through there. So once that's all pulled through, there's a little connector that goes around the back in here, and that'll be that bit done. But I'll show you it once it's all plugged in, because it's going to be a bit of a fiddly job, I think. Right, so that's fed through, and you might, if I can get a bit of a close-up, see that there's a couple of little lips on here. They slide onto there and hold that into place. Now, taking this off again, this should then slide back over. Yeah, push that back in, like so, to seal it. And there's a small little retaining screw. Now thankfully I remembered to save it. That screws back into there, like that. Essentially that secures the whole thing back in. Pop that back on there. That. Now, perfect. The other one had no click in any way, shape or form. So in theory, if I lock it, there we go. Happy days. And that's the repair. And if I bring you round to here, all that's happened round the back, it's a lot of palaver just for a little stupid switch. hopefully I can get you to see what I can see. That little connector there is where this one here is where I've just connected it all back up to, and that's the rubber bung just there that comes through to secure it, and then I'll feed that back up into there because that's where it came from originally. Clips back into there, that can then go back in somehow. I'll figure that out in a minute. But that essentially is how you put together that. These apparently, these little actuators are a common little bit to go on these. When I inquired about stock, they had sort of 30 in the country, so clearly it's a part that does go, and they just had to get it in from another parts centre. But with that repaired, that means now that that's nice and secure. I've got to get a new one of those, but that all now locks perfectly. And that's exactly how to replace it. It really is, now that, again, it's one of those jobs that you work out, now that I've worked out how to do it, really it's a 15-20 minute job to get it replaced if you can get the part. And personally, you know, I've gone to VW, there is Amazon, Autodoc, all of those places do sell it, but it's that part number that I was trying to match up the best that I could, to make sure that I got the right bit again to go in, because obviously we're looking to try and sell this car. But ultimately I'm quite satisfied that that little job has been done. Now all I've got to do is give it a good polish and a clean, and we'll get it out for sale. Hopefully that's been of some use to some people out there who've experienced the same problem, don't know what to do. You don't need a lot of tools to do it. Essentially just a little Torx screwdriver, like so. I don't think I'm going to be able to read it anymore because it's covered in dirt, so I can't tell you what size it was, but it's only a small little tip one. That was all you needed to replace it, to get the whole thing out. And once they go, they go. Apparently there isn't anything, it's a sealed unit. You can see in there all that rust around the little motor. I imagine some water's got in there at some point, and that's what's done it. Like I said, hopefully that's been of use to someone, and if you've got that same problem, then that's how you fix it. Thank you for watching, very much appreciated.